So Tommy's had over 300 professional league career games. And as I said, in terms of Ipswich, he's played over 250 games. I'm quite intrigued to see where that puts him in kind of the top appearances, but he's definitely up there and one of the people's and the fans' favourites. He's also had spells, some of you might not realise, at Stevenage, also loan spells at Brentford, Colchester. And something that I'm really interested in talking about today is his spell in Major League Soccer with Colorado Rapids, which was as recent as last season, where he played over 60 times. So we've got some questions about that as well. And as I said, he's represented New Zealand 38 times. He's captained the country as recently, I believe it might have even been this year. Tommy also played in the World Cup, the one where Spain won, and I think New Zealand had the title of being the only unbeaten team at the tournament. But yeah, and first and foremost, as I said, Tommy's been a massive supporter of US sports scholarships since we started. And it kind of ties in with the fact that we have got a trial scheduled for May half term, which obviously isn't going to happen. But again, we are looking to grow our presence up north, and there will be a trial in Sunderland towards the end of the year. That being said, I'm just going to, through the art of technology, into the chat, so fingers crossed. See how good the Wi-Fi is. Hello.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. You?
Good, yeah, not too bad, thank you.
I've just realised my head is twice the size of yours, so I might back it up a little bit. Unless you're standing the other side of the room. How's everything going with you since the self-isolation?
Yeah, not bad. Obviously, very strange times in the world, but lucky enough to have a nice garden that can enjoy the lovely weather that we've been having in. So it's not been too bad.
Yeah, good stuff. So obviously in today's chat, we're hoping to run through your best 11, and not in a stalkerish way, but in kind of being an Ipswich fan myself, I've also tried to second guess what your best 11 will be. So as we'll go through, I'll probably pipe up and throw a few there that maybe didn't agree with your team that you've put in there as well. But as I said, I don't know if you caught at the beginning, we've had over 100 questions come in, predominantly from like Ipswich and Sunderland fans. So if it's okay with you, what I'll do is just hop into some questions and then we'll get to your best 11 and take it from there.
Yeah, of course, no problem at all.
Good stuff. So one of the first things that people are wondering, especially like for pros, how are you keeping fit during this self-isolation period? Have you got like a fitness schedule that the Sunderland team have provided you, or?
Yeah, so the sports scientist up at Sunderland has provided us with a fairly detailed plan. As soon as sort of it got extended, well, initially lockdown came in, then the league got suspended. He gave a really detailed plan up to the end of May, really, because we don't know when we'll be back training yet. So it involves running, using body weight exercises to keep the upper body and lower body in shape.
Yeah.
And obviously we're lucky that we're allowed to go out and exercise, because obviously some countries aren't even allowed to do that. So and obviously, like I said before, the nice weather helps if you want to go out and do running and things like that. So yeah, staying in shape's not being too difficult.
Good stuff. If you want to do running, yeah, I like how you phrased that. I know that when we spoke the other day, you said you'd also picked up a slight twinge of your back, but I didn't know if that was from too much FIFA or Call of Duty.
Probably too much Warzone, yeah, but all good, all good.
Good stuff. Obviously, it's been a bit frustrating for you, obviously joining Sunderland and wanting to kind of get games back in the UK again, and then obviously this coming, but obviously it's essential that people stay home and stay safe. But we're just wondering, how have you enjoyed your experience so far at Sunderland? What have your first impressions been?
Oh, first impressions, when I got that phone call, it's obviously a massive club. Doesn't deserve to be in League One. It's a Premier League club, really. When you look at the stadium, the fan base, the facilities at the Academy of Light, which is the training ground, it really is up there with the best I've seen, to be honest. And it's an absolute honour and privilege to be able to say I signed for them. Obviously, haven't played for them just yet, but I felt like I was getting closer, because obviously left the MLS in October. That's when the season finished over there. Played internationals in November, but then haven't really played any games since. So I've been managing to keep myself fit, but as you know yourself, unless you're actually playing football matches, you never get that sharpness back. So I was just getting there, and then the manager had told me that he thought I was looking sharp. And then unfortunately, lockdown kicked in and the season got suspended. So yeah, I was obviously very disappointed, but at the same time, football's so minor in the grand scheme of things at the moment, and As much as I'm disappointed personally, obviously the health and safety of everybody in UK and the world is paramount at the moment.
Yeah, because I remember when you first signed for them, I thought, well, you won't be in the squad. Was it literally the next day you were then on the bench, or did you even get a chance to train with the team?
Hadn't even trained with the squad, no. And I think one of their centre halves had picked up a rib injury, so I wasn't meant to sign until the Monday.
Yeah.
I had a phone call on the Friday lunchtime saying we need to get you signed today to be on the bench tomorrow. So that was crazy. It was almost like a deadline day scenario where they had a deadline to hit on the Friday in order for me to be involved on the Saturday. So that was quite exciting.
Yeah.
It was great to be involved straight off the bat.
I was going to say the atmosphere must be second to none, though.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the atmosphere. It was a home game, so the crowd were there. They're getting 30,000 in League One, so that sort of speaks for itself as to the passion that the fans have there. That even though they're in the third tier, they're still right behind their team.
Yeah, good stuff. And one thing that I hadn't asked you before, but I was just thinking, had you played with under Phil Parkinson during your time before at Colchester, or did that not line up?
No, I never came across him. Obviously, know a lot about him and know how well he's done in the different jobs that he's had. But it was actually through Brian Clew at Ipswich. He knew Phil Parkinson, and I think Phil Parkinson phoned him for sort of a recommendation really on my character, and he probably gave me a bit of an assassination, but managed to pull it through. But no, so
good stuff.
He's a good manager. You know, he sort of reminds me a little bit of Mick McCarthy in the way he handles things, and he's straight down the line. He's as honest as the day is long. So you know where you stand, which is all you want from a manager, really. You just want honesty, and if you ask them questions, you want them to tell you how you can get into the team, things like that. And he's been honest with me, which obviously admirable.
Good stuff. And like you were saying, such a massive club, no doubt it's a huge pressure environment, not only for the players, but for him as a manager as well. I mean, in your responses there, you've answered a few of the questions. So Aidan was the one who asked about how you're getting on. Stephen asked about your facilities. Maybe a controversial one to ask you now, because it probably didn't make the best viewing for Sunderland viewers that are watching now. But somebody's asked, will you be on the next series of Sunderland Till I Die? Obviously, we've all been watching Netflix at the minute. So,
to be honest, I don't think the cameras are rolling, because since I've been there, I haven't seen anything being done, whether it is or not, and I just haven't been involved. I don't know, but I'm unsure. And obviously, I've watched the series myself. I finished it the other day, and it really gives you a good insight into the behind-the-scenes running of a football club, you know. And that's why people find that sort of show so appealing, is that nobody sees that. I've never seen that side of a football club before. I'm just a player, and because I know people ask me about transfers and things, and they go, "Oh, you must have known he was coming in." As a player, you don't, unless you know the player personally, you have no idea about the transfers, comings and goings, and we're as excited as anyone else when it comes to transfers coming in and out.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I know, obviously, say, for example, a club like Sunderland comes in, one of the first things you probably do as a player is speak to someone you either know there or someone who's been there. Not many occasions where you can actually go on Netflix and watch 2 years' worth of background footage about the club. So, we'll just have to see with that one. Moving away from Sunderland, obviously, you've spent a large proportion of your career at Ipswich. As I said, that's where we first met, albeit years and years ago now. So we've got quite a few questions from Ipswich fans. I would say probably about 60% of when will you be going back there. In fact, we're going to get some more actually that are coming through live right now. So the first one we've got from Will is just saying, what was your best moment at Ipswich during those 10 plus years?
If you're talking about in the actual moment, obviously scoring that goal against Norwich in the playoff semi-final was right up there, albeit it didn't last for very long, as we unfortunately went on to lose the tie. But actually that moment there and then, where it went across the line, I sprinted down and celebrated with the Ipswich fans, that'll stay with me forever, and it was a great moment, great feeling. Other Ipswich Town memories, I scored 2 goals in one game in a 4-0 win against Middlesbrough. And I was just praying that we got a penalty so I could try and get a hat-trick. It never happened, unfortunately. I mean, there's too many to try and think of on the spot. You know, I had a great time at Ipswich. Always first result I look for whenever there's any games on. So I've become a fan. I grew up as a Liverpool fan, but as soon as you enter the professional world, it's sort of hard to be a fan of a team. But obviously now, playing for Ipswich for so long and coming away from that, I'd call myself an Ipswich fan now.
Yeah, yeah, a couple of great moments there. Definitely, I'm sure you're, no matter how tired you were against Norwich when that one went in, you didn't mind running the full pitch to celebrate that one.
Definitely not, definitely not. You get that just mad rush of adrenaline, and
yeah, I guess
I can't remember from the goal going in to being in front of the fans. I don't remember any of that. I just remember being there, and yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I guess kind of coming through the academy, that's the thing you dream of, isn't it? Scoring against the local rival. I'm sure for Sunderland fans, it's definitely, you know, scoring against Newcastle as well. So some great moments there. Something that actually, again, I'm chucking in questions myself, but obviously you were there for over 10 years, but there was never a testimonial. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, so I made my debut August 2008, and I left January 2018. So I'd missed the 10 years. So I think you get a testimonial when you're from your debut. It starts.
Yeah.
And I just missed it by about 9 months, unfortunately. So.
I'm chucking it out there to our Instagram followers that I think once normality is restored, Ipswich should hold a testimonial for you with, you know, all the proceeds going to the NHS. I'm chucking it out there as a first idea. So we'll see. Although I'm not sure Sunderland would be very happy if you got injured in that one. But maybe I'm chucking it out there just so you can get me on the bench or something for one of the teams. But we'll see. So the next question that we've got is from Dylan, and I'm pretty sure I know what the answer to this one is. But who's the best manager that you had at Ipswich?
Yeah, that's a pretty obvious one. You know, Mick McCarthy had such a successful time under him for that period of sort of 2 or 3 years. That the year we made the playoffs, obviously being the highlight. A notable mention to Jim Magilton. He's the manager that gave me my debut. So I'll be forever in debt to him, really, because he sort of showed me a lot of faith in an 18-year-old kid that had never really played. I mean, I'd played on loan at Stevenage the previous season, but to chuck a centre half in at such a young age, I'm really thankful to him for that. And actually, I had a little message with him the other day, so kept in contact with him, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame that I couldn't play under him for longer. I think a few weeks after my debut, I broke my leg, and then by the time I came back, he'd left the job and Roy Keane had come in. So it was a shame that I played under him for a bit longer, but forever in debt to him. But Mick McCarthy is definitely the standout for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, thinking back to Jim and being an Ipswich fan myself, definitely it's one of those ones where people look back and they think, he wasn't doing that bad, was he? And I think actually on Twitter I saw the other day that his final game was a 3-1 win against Norwich at home, and then he got the sack. So, bit of an unusual one. But again, that's the football industry, isn't it? Doesn't always make sense anyway. One of the other questions which you kind of alluded to, but I'll skip ahead to, was like, what is that feeling? Talk us through, like, knowing that you're going to be making your home debut for a club that you've been at. How do you comprehend with that?
It's a tough one, really. Obviously, so long ago now. Bloody hell. I remember he pulled me in on the Friday. So I had pre-season with the first team. So obviously you play your minutes, and it's a bit of a rotation game. So you never know if you're in the preferred 11 or not until sort of the last game or two. And I remember we played West Ham in a friendly at home. And I think I played 90 minutes in that match. And then the following Friday, so I sort of had an inkling that I might be involved. But the Friday before the Saturday game, he pulls me into his office and asks me directly face to face if I was ready. He goes, "Are you ready to play? Because you're in the team at the moment." And it was one of them. He put me on the spot. But no, obviously, I was just really excited at that moment in time when I was sat in his office. Really excited, and then I came away, went home, and then the nerves hit. Like I told my mum and dad, "I'm playing tomorrow." So the nerves set in, you get that feeling in your stomach where you don't know if you're going to be sick or... but to be fair, on the day of the game, it was almost like my mindset switched straight back into it, as in I'm playing football. This is what I've got to do for most of my life. And as soon as that, it's an old cliche, but it really is, as soon as you cross that white line, everything else, all the nerves fade away and you're just working.
Yeah.
So, but the build-up to that first game, I can remember. And to be fair, the nerves continued for a good sort of 2 or 3 years.
Really, yeah.
For bigger games, you'll have a bit more nerves, but generally I can keep that under control and don't really get nervous anymore these days.
Yeah. I'd have liked to see what Jim's response would have been if you'd have said, "No, I don't think I'm up to it." Having to check. Yeah, great guy, but sometimes a bit of a temper on him as well. Okay, so again, we've spoken about it earlier, but the question that we've had from 7 people is, will you be coming back to Ipswich? And someone's even shooting your career off already. Have said, when you retire, will you go back as a coach?
Well, hopefully I've got a few years left in me yet as a player, but I mean, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Obviously, Ipswich hold a very close place in my heart, and if the opportunity was to arise to come back, whether it be that a player or a coach in the future, then it's obviously something I would seriously consider and would never say no to immediately. So, I mean, obviously it's hard at this moment in time to say whether that's possible or not because of the climate we're in at the moment.
Yeah.
Being contracted to Sunderland, I don't want to do them a disservice, and obviously I'm enjoying my time there, and hopefully if all this blows over and we can get back to playing, I can get back to playing for Sunderland and see where that takes me. But I mean, never say never, but unfortunately I can't really give much more than that. Yeah,
no, that's fair. And you were actually keeping fit, weren't you, while you were back before you kind of signed for Sunderland at Ipswich as well? So you've still obviously got a good relationship with everyone there.
Yeah, I spoke to Lee O'Neill when I came back from the MLS and asked him if it would be okay just to pop in and train with the under-23s to keep ticking over, and he was more than happy to accommodate that. So really thankful to him for that. And Paul Lambert was happy for me to do that as well. So thanks to him as well for letting me do that. And it was great to come in, and obviously it's a bit strange where you're so used to going into the first team dressing room at the training ground, and I'm in with the under-23s now. It was a bit strange to get my head around, but it was great to see all the old faces from the training ground. Sally, who's been there, she's been there ever since I came on trial when I was 14. So what's that? 16 years ago now. She's still at the club, and so it's really nice to catch up with those old faces.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving away from it, so obviously we gave it quite a bit of focus there, but there's a lot of Ipswich fans and followers wanting to know. So talking about obviously representing your country, Cam has asked us, what's the best moment that you've had in a white shirt for New Zealand?
I mean, the standout for that's got to be the World Cup. Managed to play every minute of every game as a 20-year-old. You know, I'd only made my debut for the All Whites in the March when the World Cup was in the June and July. So again, I had for Ricky Herbert, who was the manager at the time, to have faith in a young centre back to play every single game of that tournament was amazing. And obviously, like you alluded to in your intro, we were the only unbeaten team at that World Cup. So I think that'll probably come up in a few quizzes in the future. But no, obviously a fantastic experience. But it's one of those where, because I was so young and sort of fearless, I never realised the magnitude of the situation I was in at the time. It was only when I look back at it now, I'm like, I played in the World Cup. It's crazy to think that. Obviously, growing up as a child, you dream of doing that, and so I was really proud for myself and my family to say that I've done that. So brilliant.
Yeah, and I guess, like you said, not only just to be part of that squad, because you often see that a country might, take younger players just to get that experience for future ones, but obviously to be chucked in and was it pretty much you started every game, didn't you, in the group stage?
Yeah.
So obviously great experience. What have we got next? Sorry, just working through the questions here. Okay, we've got one here from Ashley, and she said, and we'll talk about kind of your background growing up in Macclesfield and then moving to New Zealand. Who was like an inspiration for you soccer-wise when you were growing up?
That's a tough one. When I was, like I alluded to earlier, I was a Liverpool fan due to my brother. My elder brother is a Liverpool fan, so obviously just followed in his footsteps, really. And I remember my heroes growing up. Firstly, Robbie Fowler. Then probably, obviously, you move on through the Liverpool legends, really. You then got Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard. But as I got a little bit older and more tuned to being a centre-back, it wasn't until I was sort of 13, 14 that I became a centre-back. And by then, the ones that I looked up to were Cannavaro, Rio Ferdinand, players like that, that obviously were at the top of their game at that time. So, I mean, there's too many players that I look at and try to learn from. And But those two, Rio and Cannavaro, were definitely two that were at the top of their game.
And kind of touched on that because you got to play against Cannavaro, right, in the World Cup?
Yeah, that's right. I got his shirt actually hanging up there. So
yeah, I think I've tried to take it a few times actually when I'm there. But that must be such a surreal moment. Again, a bit later we'll talk about the best players you've come up against. But again, that must be such a surreal moment to see someone that you've admired for so long and then you're lining up against them.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes down to that thing though, that once you're playing in that game, you don't really think about that. You're thinking, I've got a job to do, and then you come away from the game, and then you look back on it, and you do realise, wow, that was one of my heroes growing up that I've just played.
Yeah,
yeah, it's hard to comprehend at times. Where I grew up playing FIFA and Football Manager, and you buy these players for your teams, and then suddenly, so it's a massive. But again, just one of I've managed to play against these players, an immense feeling of pride, really, and how that's a moment that will never be able to be taken away from me.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. I realise that we're taking a lot of time on these questions, but we're just trying to make sure all of them are acknowledged. The last one that I've got before we get to your best 11 is obviously US sports scholarships. Looking at, can you hear me still?
Have you got me? Yeah. Yeah,
we've got you. The last question that we were just running through, Tommy, is obviously relating to college sports, Major League Soccer, and can't ignore the fact that you spent 2 seasons with Colorado Rapids. So again, we've got a question here. Just what was your most memorable moment from playing and living in America, I guess?
I mean, the lifestyle over there is class. You play the season's a summer season, so obviously that's in complete contrast to English season. So it's one of those where you come home from training and the sun's shining. Denver's got a great climate throughout the summer months. And where I was living at the time, it was in an apartment block that had a rooftop pool that overlooked mountains. It was brilliant. And we were really lucky to have so many visitors come over from England to sort of enjoy the experience with as well, both family and friends. And obviously getting to see a lot of the country. I went to cities in America that I wouldn't have necessarily chosen to go to myself, and really, really enjoyed those places. One of my favourites actually were your neck of the woods when you were over there, Chicago. Definitely up there. Yeah. One of my favourite places over there that I visited, which again, necessarily I wouldn't have picked that as a holiday destination. But brilliant place, and I'd highly recommend anyone to go and visit there.
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point, and obviously we have that of our student athletes where, it is all foreign to them. They might know about New York and Florida and kind of the major cities, California, that you hear about, the major states, but until you actually have that experience, you can really see how amazing it can be in, other states that you might not have really considered. That's kind of it for question time. So we want to get straight into it. We've lost your video connection, so I'm hoping you can still hear us.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you. So I didn't know if maybe that you bottled it last minute about your best 11s, but so let's get into it. Starting with, I want to know what formation you're going to go with first for your best 11. Although I'm pretty sure I could probably guess.
I've gone for we'll say a 3-4-3.
Okay, I'm intrigued to when we get to the defenders whether those 3 centre-backs means that you've made it into the team yourself.
No, my team doesn't include myself. I thought that I'd leave myself out so I could fit someone else in. It's too difficult. Okay.
Good stuff. Well, we can still hear you, but hopefully you've got your technical engineers in the background trying to get your camera working. But okay, so starting with goalkeeper, and I've got who I thought you'd go for, but let's hear it.
Tim Howard.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I thought you might go for that one as well. Can you elaborate on that? Obviously, when you played with Tim in the 2 seasons you were in Colorado, he was, arguably towards the end of his career, but did he still have it?
He did, like you say, he was getting on a bit. I think he was 40 by the time he'd retired. But he's one of those, he was just a natural leader. Obviously, his career speaks for itself, played in the Premier League for so long. But he's up there with one of the best captains I've ever played under. And he's probably the hardest working pro I've seen. Constantly in the gym, constantly doing yoga sessions. He had a personal therapist that came to every away trip just to make sure that he was in the best shape possible. And that's obviously why he kept playing to the age he did. And actually, he's just come out of retirement again now recently, hasn't he? So he's still...
Yeah, I was just going to say, because he's majority shareholder of a team, isn't he? And then yeah, I'd seen in the news that he probably decided that he was better than the keeper that they had.
Yeah, I think it was an injury issue with their main goalie, which forced him into it. But no, I've got no doubt that he was keeping himself fit and ready anyway. And I think once you've come out of that environment, you probably do miss it. And I think he just wanted another little taste of it. But no, top man as well. Look, off the pitch, you can go to him with anything, and he can't do more than enough to help you out in any situation you're going through. So really top man.
Brilliant. So you didn't seem hesitant at all with your answer there of Howard. The other one that I've got here that I thought you might go for was obviously Bilikowski at Ipswich. But I agree.
He's obviously up there. He played some of the best seasons I had. Am I back there yet? No.
You're just a blur, mate. It's better than the pitch black.
There's a few. Asmir Begovic could have been one as well. I only played a handful of games with him when he was on loan at Ipswich, but he was brilliant. Obviously, Bart was brilliant. So there is a few in there that could have made it. But obviously, when you've played with Tim Howard and the career he's had, you can't really go much further than that one.
No, that's fair enough. So moving on next, we've got the defenders, and obviously you've gone for like 3 centre-backs. Who's your first selection there?
So right-sided centre-half, I've gone Winston Reid.
Yeah.
So, a player that obviously had a very good Premier League career. Unfortunately, his last couple of years have been hampered by injury, but brilliant athlete. Oh, there I am.
Hey.
Brilliant athlete. He's one of those that he can get himself out of situations through his pure athleticism. And again, another good leader. You know, he's captain of the All Whites at the moment when he's fit and able to. And yeah, I couldn't really. I mean, there's a few contenders for it again. I mean, once we've gone through the whole back three, there'll be a few that I've missed out which could quite easily have made it. Yeah,
I think with Winston Reid, he's one of those players where often I'll read reports from like any manager that's West Ham, at West Ham at the time, absolutely bigging him up, saying how amazing he is. And whenever he's fit, he seems to get in the team. But from a non-West Ham fan looking on the outside, I think he's just someone that is so reliable, does a job, solid, like a 7, 8 out of 10 every week. And I mean, obviously to do it at that level was just unbelievable, really. So obviously it's a big loss for West Ham and New Zealand, the fact that he's had his injuries. But is he back fully fit now? I saw that he had kind of a small knock again recently. But
yeah, I think he went on loan to the MLS, actually. He's on loan at Kansas City at the moment, but I don't think he's quite fully fit yet. Obviously, this period now might help him, where there's no game, might help him just get over that line and get back to 100%. So hopefully that's the case, because he's a very good player and he deserves to get back fit.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Okay, so let's get your next defender in there.
Ryan Nelson.
Okay, yeah.
Best captain I've played under. He was almost like... He was like a head coach, but on the pitch. He'd talk everybody through every element of the game, knew so much about football, and really, obviously, the experience that came with that. He was the linchpin of our 2010 team. Without him, we definitely wouldn't have gone unbeaten, that's for sure. Absolutely rock solid, rapid. I think it's underestimated just how quick he was. Obviously, he had a great career with Blackburn, played for Spurs, played for QPR. So again, just a really nice bloke as well. I keep in contact with him as well. And again, he's someone you can go to get advice from. And yeah, he was the first name on my team sheet, really.
Really, yeah, because I completely forgot that you played with him. So he didn't make what I predicted to be your team. But looking back, obviously, he's such a big impact for New Zealand and all white soccer. What's he up to nowadays?
He owned an agency over in America. He's still based over in DC. So before he came to the Premier League, he played for DC United in the MLS, and I think that's where his family are based now. So he runs an agency from there. I know he owns a couple of vineyards in New Zealand as well. So he's living the life.
He's doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was it you two as a centre-back partnership in that World Cup, or was it three at the back again?
It was three, so it was Winston Reid, Ryan Nelson, and myself played in the three at the back. So yeah,
Good
and
stuff.
then
So that
my
means,
third centre half is
yeah,
this. It's Aaron Cresswell, but I've put him at the third centre half because he's played there quite a bit for West Ham over the last year or two. So it's a bit
yeah,
of a cheap one because he is a left wing back really. But I had to get him in the team. Obviously, was brilliant for Ipswich. Wand of a left foot. I would have had a lot less goals for Ipswich if he wasn't on the set piece deliveries.
yeah.
And obviously he's gone on to play for England, so fantastic left back. And he's played left centre half, so I've put him there.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that because I thought you might go for a four, but then thought, well, if you're trying to get yourself in there, you might go for a three. And Cresswell was the only name that I kind of had as a full-back position for that. And again, once we've gone through the defenders, I can talk about some other ones that we considered. But yeah, obviously, when Cresswell came in from Tranmere, was it an instant thing that you thought, hang on a minute, this kid's really good, maybe even could go on to a higher level?
Not straight away. You know, I think it's hard for any player going into a new club. You don't get many that go in and light the world on fire straight away. You know, it took him a little bit of time to settle. He'd never lived away from home before,
Yeah.
but you know, after about 5 or 6 months, you could really see him then kick up into another gear, and that's when you thought, yeah, he's got a bit here. And
Yeah.
he stayed a year longer than he possibly could have. I believe he could have gone to the Premier League the year earlier, but you know, that's testament to him and how hard he worked at Ipswich, and he really was brilliant. He scored some fantastic goals as well. One that springs to mind, I saw it pop up on Twitter recently. It was against Crystal Palace, and a half volley from about 30 yards out, brilliant. And he scores some worldies for West Ham as well. But yeah, he had to get in my team somewhere, and with the formation I chose, that was the only place I could get him in. So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, technically, he's so good, and at the end of the day, if you're that good as a player, you don't mind kind of playing them slightly out of position. So that being said, we've had a few comments come up and a few players that have been mentioned that have been left out. So who else was kind of on the radar to get into that back line for you?
Gareth Mcauley was on there. Again, a leader and a guy that sort of, he meant a lot to me because when I made my debut for Ipswich, it was alongside him. So he sort of helped me and gave me a lot of advice in those early days as a young professional. So he was close to making it. Luke Chambers is another one. Obviously, I played with him for so long. Again, another fantastic leader. I've been lucky to have so many good captains throughout my career that I've played with. Who else have we got? Have you got any there that I might not have thought of?
Yeah, so the ones that I had down as potential inclusions were, I've chucked it out there, even though I don't even know if you played Maitland Niles as kind of a rogue one, because obviously he was there on loan. And again, I don't think he had the most amazing spell for Ipswich, but obviously he's gone on to do really well at Arsenal. So I think if you were just trying to maybe name drop some big time players, then he might have made the team. I've also obviously got Cresswell who made it, but I had Mings as well as a potential. Though I know that he didn't play that long with Mings, but again, he's someone who's kind of transformed himself as a player because now he's just considered as a centre back. But a lot of people won't realise that weren't, maybe following Ipswich, is that he played a lot of games at fullback for Ipswich. And again, like a crazy rise from playing from Chippenham to playing for England in probably like 4 or 5 years. So I had him, and then, as you said, I had Mcauley, Delaney, and Berra and Chambers as kind of other ones out there. So pretty much, I thought I had you covered, and then you chucked Nelson in there, so a bit disappointed. But I think that
I forgot about Ainsley Maitland-Niles, so he's not in my team, but he should be considered. And I'm not sure he'll get in this team, to be honest, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe he'll make the bench or the resis. But all right, so moving on to your midfield, who have we got?
Well, we'll go to 2 holding midfielders first. I'm 99% sure you won't get one of them, but we'll go with Cole Scouse as the first one. I think he's one of the most underrated players from an outside perspective. He doesn't get the credit he deserves in my eyes. Does all the sort of dirty work that fans don't really see. I mean, I know some of the fans do appreciate him and the work that he does, but a lot of his work goes unnoticed. You know, he's a shield for the back four or back three, whoever he's playing in front of. His reading of the game is second to none. You know, he can sniff out danger before that danger's occurred, and he's actually very good on the ball in possession as well. You know, he's one of those players that you're trying to get the ball off him. He puts his body in the right positions, and you can't get the ball off him. So, for me, he's definitely up there with one of the best players I've played with, and one of the most underrated as well.
Yeah, I think with Scouse again, like he's a bit of a Marmite one in that some fans might say, "Oh, he's terrible, he doesn't do anything." But then I think when they polled the fans, that he was in like top 20 players of all time, and I think you made that list as well. So congrats on that one. But yeah, Scouse, as I said, he does a job, doesn't he? And he's a Mr. Consistent, 7, 8 out of 10 every week. And I think obviously ever since Mcauley kind of made that role infamous in terms of being the ticker in someone's watch, I think you could definitely say that that's what Scouse has been for Ipswich. And ultimately, the manager sees them week in, week out, and there's no surprise that he's, racked up the appearances at the two clubs he spent most of his career at.
Yeah, top man as well. You know, I get on really well with him off the pitch as well. But yeah, there was no way he wasn't going to get in that team.
So who have you got next to him?
So Ryan Thomas, I don't know if you'll have come across him. He's in for New Zealand, and he's plays for PSV Eindhoven at the moment. And he's quite young. I mean, he must be, I don't know how young he is now, but coming through into the New Zealand team, I hadn't really heard of him. He was playing in Holland for a team called Cresswell. And when he came into the All Whites setup, it was one of those I was like, wow, who is this guy? He's both-footed, absolute engine, can get up and down the pitch all day long. Just classy on the ball. You can't one of those you can't get the ball off him. He's got the body feints that are coming, but you can't do anything about. You'll know what I mean when I say that. And obviously, then he got his move to PSV off the back of some very impressive performances for Cresswell. And unfortunately, before he made his first appearance, he did his cruciate. But this season, he's got himself back fit, and he's been involved, and he scored a couple of goals. And obviously now it's been curtailed by the COVID-19 stuff. But yeah, definitely up there. And if he continues the trajectory he was on before he got injured, he'll certainly be a top player for a long time to come.
Good stuff. So he'd have been a wonder kid for FM then. So I'll have to keep a lookout for him. Okay, so moving on from your centre midfielder, who have you got? Have you gone for a 4, haven't you? So your 2 wingers.
Yeah, 2 wingers. On the right side, I've gone Ryan Fraser. Obviously, the season he had at Ipswich, he was electric. Teams didn't know what to do when they came up against him. It was almost he could create chances whenever he wanted for a lot of that time. Definitely one of the most impactful loanees to come to Ipswich during my time, for sure. Again, one of those that has gone on to have a very good Premiership career. I think there was talks of him being linked with Arsenal. I don't know how recent that was, if there's still being talks. But yeah, top. I think he's out of contract this year, by the way. So I wouldn't.
Yeah,
he did get moved to one of sort of the top 6, 7 clubs.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one with his time at Bournemouth, because he kind of got given the opportunity, did amazingly well, then was getting left out of the team. I know he had a few niggles as well, but then you've got bigger clubs looking to take him from a club that's arguably struggling in the league. But I do remember when he first signed for Ipswich, he just had an instant impact, and just a proper footballer, isn't he? Like, he likes to get the ball down, run at people, and brilliant technique as well. So
yeah, he's
that's
sort
good.
of an old-fashioned winger in the sense that he just wants to beat his man and get crosses in. And yeah, really good for us that season. So that's why he's made my team on the right side.
Okay, cool. Left side?
I only played 1 game with this guy, so I reckon you can guess who it is. But I had to put him in because he was outstanding whilst he was on loan at Ipswich. Another loanee that we had. Mexican fella, if that gives you another clue. Gio dos Santos. Yeah. It was that season I made my debut, and I had a bad injury, and I came back in sort of the April time. So I got back to training with the first team, and this guy, some of the things he used to do in training were unbelievable. I've never
Yeah,
seen
no, I
things
th
he's done.
yeah, I think earlier today actually it was that Ipswich Norwich 3-1 where I saw he scored a penalty and I thought, hang on, he's not had a bad career, and obviously him and his brother have done amazingly well in Major League Soccer as well. So yeah, I'm not surprised he got included. So you've got your midfield four there of what, Skuse, Dos Santos, Fraser, and yeah, okay, perfect. And let's hear about the ones who almost made it.
Obviously, now you've brought up Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He would have been one that was potential. You put me on the spot here now. Who else?
Do you want me to chuck? I'll chuck some out that I had on my list as well. So I put Dyer there just because I wasn't sure. I know he had a few spells, but and it probably wouldn't have been that when you were there he was at his best. But you can't argue when he was at Ipswich how good he was. Again, another one is Townsend, who I know didn't have the most amazing spell at Ipswich, but's gone on to good things. And then these three as well. I'm not, with wingers they can play both sides. So I've chucked John Walters out there as a potential because as much as he was a forward, I know when he put a shift in out wide for Ipswich, he was top notch. And then Sears was another one who I didn't know if he'd make it in the midfield as well.
Yeah, no, Andros definitely had a shout. He wasn't nearly, and I was going to put him in instead of Gio, purely for the fact that I played more with him.
Yeah.
I mean, other midfielders that could have had a shout were probably Grant Ledbetter could have been in there. Kieran Dyer, I don't know if I ever actually played in the first team game with him. I was definitely at the club when he came in for one of his spells, but I don't know if I was ever on the pitch at the same time, so that's why he didn't make it.
Yeah. A couple more that some of the people are watching.
Ivan Campo was a potential for either a defensive position or a midfield position.
Yeah, not bad for him.
But again, I can't remember if I played in the actual first team with him. I definitely played in the reserves with him. But I thought it might be a sneaky one if I hadn't played in the first team with him. I can't really put him in.
Yeah, that's true. The other ones I've got here, and somebody's just chucked that there, I did have Jimmy Bullard because obviously he had a really good loan spell, although I think when he signed permanent it wasn't as glittering, shall we say the least. And then beyond that, I've got like Tom Lawrence. And when you said that you were going for, is it two up front? I didn't know whether you were going to try and squeeze McGoldrick into midfield because obviously he's got the ability to, no doubt, but you're just not going to get much from him defensively. So...
On that I've got McGoldrick as my deep line forward, as in in the hole, David McGoldrick, because so unfortunate with the injuries he had at Ipswich that whenever he got himself into 100% condition, he'd then get another niggly injury, and we only briefly saw glimpses of his very best. But obviously for me, training with him day in and day out, again, he's one of those players that some of the things he did in training, some of the chips he scored, just sees things that other players can't see. And again, he's gone on to reap the rewards that he deserves from playing in the Premier League now. So delighted for him. And again, another lad that is really good off the pitch as well. Great to have in the changing room with the banter that he brings to it. So he's my sort of in the hole. He'll set things going. Yeah,
no, definitely. I did think the only thing, like you said, is his kind of injury has been a bit plagued, or his career has been plagued with injuries. And I know at one point Leicester were quite close, or had put a bid in for maybe like up to 8 million, and this was before the season when they won the Premier League. So who knows, how that would have panned out. But I think a lot of Ipswich fans at the time were thinking, we know what will happen the minute he signs for Sheffield United. He'll be fully fit all the time and he'll score it. And he kind of went on to do that. But, as a player, sometimes I guess you do.
He didn't sign for Sheffield United. It's just where he lives, he's quite close to their training base. So he just asked to go in to keep fit for the pre-season because he got it released by Ipswich. And then obviously he's done he's done really well throughout pre-season. They've signed him from that. So again, that shows that being in the right place at the right time helps as a footballer as much as the hard work does. But he was fortunate that they required a forward, but obviously he's repaid them in leaps and bounds with what he's gone on to achieve with them.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a strange one with Sheffield United because obviously the manager's done amazing with the team that he's got, and they haven't really had to change too much. And then when you look at the forward line, none of them have really scored that many goals either. Yet they've, all right, the season hasn't finished, but the place that they're in is just mind blowing. But it just proves to you in a league where a lot of the top teams are free scoring, that doesn't have to necessarily be the way to kind of get results in that league.
Yeah, absolute breath of fresh air. The ideas they have with their overlapping centre halves and things that just they've surprised teams because teams have never had to deal with a system like that before, and obviously that's got them where they've got to. And if they get European football, it'll be one of the best achievements I'll have seen in football. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, so with no further ado, I'm intrigued to know because there's two forwards here, and you've got to let down one of them. Who is it you're going for?
Well, the first one, I'll go. You've already mentioned his name, actually, and you mentioned him as a wide player, John Walters. I've put him in as a striker because, yes, he played a lot out wide for Ipswich, but for his Stoke career, really, obviously he kicked on and was a very good Premier League striker for many years. Another one of those leaders. He was captain of Ipswich during my time there for a while, and another one of those where you look at him and the work he puts in off the pitch, not just on the pitch. Obviously, you see the graft he puts in on the pitch, but off the pitch, constantly doing whatever it takes to gain that edge. And he is hard as nails as well.
Yeah, I saw it. I couldn't really believe it when I saw it, but John Walters is Stoke's top scorer in the Premier League ever.
Right, yeah.
Again, obviously he's got all the ability in the world, but I guess you wouldn't really associate him with being the most prolific striker in the world. But it just shows, the guy's consistent, isn't he? He's in the team and he gives so much for the team as well. You wouldn't even just have him in, if he never scored, I think you'd have him in purely for his work rate and his ability as well.
Yeah, exactly that. And obviously in a team that, like Stoke, his style of play fitted perfectly. And got him the success that he got throughout his career. So he was one of the first names in there as well. I didn't know where to put him, but he was going to be in the team somewhere.
Yeah, a bit like Cresswell. They're that good. You have to get him in regardless of the formation. So then who's your last pick?
Probably an obvious one. He's New Zealand one, and he's been banging in the goals in the Prem for the last couple of years, Chris Wood. Easy one for me. I know his time at Ipswich wasn't the best. He came to us with an injury. I remember our physio saying, he looked at his ankle and he said, if you were our player, you wouldn't be training. And he was trying to play through this injury. So we never saw the best of him. But purely because I'd played with him for New Zealand a lot as well. So I've seen the best of him in an all-white shirt. He had to be in. He had to be in. He's fairly underrated for me as well. His running in behind, his movement off the ball, his pace is underrated. He's quick, and obviously the size and strength of him speaks for itself. And he's done fantastically well. He earned that move to Burnley with a fantastic season at Leeds, and he's just gone on. He's kicked on again, really, and really, I wouldn't be surprised if bigger clubs came knocking for him if he carries on scoring goals the way he has been.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those ones where, as I said, he'd had periods, maybe Ipswich where he'd had injuries and not really looked to be fulfilling his potential. And then at Leeds, he just went on to another level. And again, it's another massive club, so you're in a high pressure environment. So then I guess going into the Premier League, that probably helps, in terms of making it easier for him where, again, Burnley are a well-respected club, but maybe the expectations aren't there, that you're going to score 20 or 30. But it seems like the Dyche, when he's fit, Chris Wood's the first name on the sheet really for him. So, he's gone on to be.
He's one of those that his work rate as well, his work rate alone will be a reason why he's in that Burnley team, because obviously the way they play as well. He grafts. And that might go unnoticed as well at times, but no, he's up there, and he's one of these players that had a few unsuccessful loans. Similar in some ways to Harry Kane. Harry Kane went out on loan when he was younger, wasn't really successful. You probably looked at him and thought, not sure. And then look what he's gone on to do. Obviously, Woods isn't at that level yet, but he had a few loans where you looked at his stats and you're thinking, if he hasn't done it there, is he going to do it? and then just clicked into gear and something worked for him, and then he's kicked on. And yeah, again, probably the front line was probably the easiest part of the team for me to pick.
I was going to say, I would not want to be a back four playing against them two. You would not get a minute. Okay, so that is your 11. So can you just give us a recap on that?
So in goal, we've got Tim Howard. Back three, Winston Reid, Ryan Nelson, Aaron Cresswell. Two holding midfielders, Cole Scouse and Ryan Thomas. Right midfield, Ryan Fraser. Left midfield, Giovanni Dos Santos. In behind the front two, we've got David McGoldrick, and the two strikers, Jonathan Walters and Chris Wood.
Perfect. And talking about, I know we've gone through each kind of part of the pitch mishaps. Obviously, a bit of a surprise for me as well is one that got left out is Daryl Murphy. And I'm sure it would have been a tough call between them. But if you're, comparing him to both Woods and Walters and what they've then achieved in the Premier League as well, it's hard to argue against that. So
yeah.
To be fair, and kind of with this team, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be, is it Nelson that you'd have as captain of this team, or?
Yeah, Ryan Nelson captain for sure. Yeah.
Right, and then who are you having as manager? Would that be McCarthy as well, or?
Yeah, Mick would definitely be manager. He's the best manager I've played under and had the most successful time under him. So 100% would be Mick.
Decent. Well, I think definitely looking at that team, one thing you've got is strength, hard work, discipline. So I can definitely tell you're a defender from the team that you've picked. I think if I was doing it myself, I'd probably have four up front. So no, that's great. One thing that
special mention to Murph, because he should be in there at some point, but it's one of those I couldn't fit him in with the other names around it. But he's probably the first name that goes onto the bench.
Yeah, so I get McGoldrick will get injured anyway, so Murphy can